go, grind, grind, grind. You got to slow down to speed up.
Yeah,
so it's going to feel really strange, but the slower you go, the more you pause, meditate, do whatever you need to do to hear the inside voice. What you'll get is you'll get one inspired action for maybe 7 days rather than one a day, right? Like I think especially as real estate agents, we go, 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 and we don't stop. We don't actually have to do that much work to make it happen. The point is the inspired action is fewer and far than what we've been taught. And so when you take that inspired action, I always tell people it's like, from here to the end goal, it's maybe 10 steps. What if I only had to take 2 to get there instead of 10? So that's what I've been playing with. So when you're following your soul and you're aligned and you're taking aligned, inspired action, it's much less work. So it feels weird because I'm used to hustling. I worked my butt off. And one of the first things that Enmei said to me when she met me was, Margaret, stop doing, start being. And so an example of that is when I left my job, like I told you guys, I had only enough savings to last me a month and a half. Now that's crazy. My parents were like, we support you, and oh my God, is this gonna work?
At the start of COVID.
Yeah, I left in July of 2020. And so I did the basics that I probably didn't even have to do. I started my website. I was like, what else can I do? I asked all my friends to help me. And so I said, like, when I start my business, can you post this picture? I gave them a picture and some text. And that was about all I did. And then it came down to 4 days before my first bills were due in September. And I didn't have the money to pay them. I needed like $4,000. And this has happened, I'm not even kidding, in the last 3 years, at least 25 times, including this next month. And so I'm like, okay, I'm calm. I'm feeling good. You start to feel those feelings of like, oh my God, am I gonna lose my house? So I started to realize what I needed to do was I needed to regulate my nervous system because I was going into fight or flight and nothing had even happened yet. I hadn't lost my house. And so I'm meditating every day at that point. I'm going on my walks. I'm trying to maintain my routine. And about 5 days before my bills were due, I got this call from a guy who had been listening to my podcast for like a year at Pickett Street. And he's like, hey, can we meet on Zoom tomorrow? I want to talk to you about working together. And I was like, sure. I've done a couple introductory calls. This will be great. We hop on Zoom the next day, and he is from San Francisco, and he's like, you don't need to tell me anything. You don't have to sell me on anything I'm in. And I was like, what? You don't want to hear I've practiced this speech, though. Shouldn't I like say it? He's like, no, I'm in. And I know that you usually work with people for 6 months. I want to work with you for a year. And if I'm being really honest, I want you for 18 months. And can I pay up front?
Wow.
And I was like, what? You are going to pay me up front. And at that time, I was undercharging for my coaching, but that was still $14,000. That was more money than I'd ever seen in a single paycheck in my entire life. And at that point, I got off the phone, I sobbed, I called my mom, and I was like, I'm doing the right thing. That was the universe, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, saying yes, finally. And I mean, when I left my job, it wasn't just because I was leaving my job, it was because I was finally following my soul. I was glowing like I'd just gotten engaged.